just to start with, because given what I do, I hear about this a lot. They've missed out on promotion, or they found out about that job above them because someone announced it on LinkedIn. The little like gifs with cherry on the top saying like, congratulations, your new job. And like someone was like, I didn't even know that was around. Like I should have got that job. So so does like, a lot of people think their work might speak for itself.
Yeah.
Does it? Like, well, yeah.
Yeah. So at the more junior level, I think it's foundational that you need to be good at the skills in your job. But that stops being enough at a certain point. And so most questions I get are, why did this person get promoted and I didn't get promoted, across my hundreds of managers? And the reason is nearly always potential. So in a performance evaluation, you get a performance ranking, which is really just your performance in the year. And that's very much associated with output, particularly at the junior level. But what nobody talks about is also once a year, all of the leaders get in a room and they talk about who has potential and what in the world does that mean? I mean, I define it as who can I pinpoint that can do 2 or more layers above them, and I can see it right now. And that's very infrequently about the performance in the year. It's about, can they think strategically? Can they think at the enterprise level? Can they guide a conversation in something beyond what the generic executive presence might lead to? It is, can you lead to a decision? Do you have the good instincts? Can you lead a team? Can you get people to follow you? It's about the potential. And I always guide people, if they want to figure out whether they're on track for promotion or not, don't ask me how I'm doing. That is the most generic question on the planet, and it invites a very generic answer. But if you ask me, what am I doing that could hold me back for promotion, you will get a much more specific answer.
Love that. It's so true. Can I play devil's advocate a little?
Please.
So it sounds very scientific and well organized, but is it really behind the scenes? Like, does someone know what they need to do to demonstrate that kind of strategic thinking, or whatever you've decided like makes up high potential? Or is it kind of a bit of a gray black box of subjectiveness?
Yeah. It can be gray if you don't, with your manager, force what could be an uncomfortable conversation. Let me give you an example.
Right.
So there was a role I really wanted, and I knew that my results were really strong, and I knew the team followed me also, right? Because I could go to different roles, different companies, people followed me. And I never asked until it was over, why didn't I get that job? And what he said was, you don't have all your peers cheering for you. Okay. So, and I was like, okay, give me an example. And he's like, well, when you get promoted, they're like, okay, I get it, but I'm not super happy for you. Now, not everyone needs to be happy for you, but they need to respect it, understand it. And when you ascend to that higher position, just be like, I get it, and I'm going to follow you. And so that doesn't mean liked by everyone. It means I had to spend my next year or two investing in my peer relationships. And no one told me that ahead of time. I actually had to ask the sort of uncomfortable question.
Fine. So you've also almost got a couple of things where you have the performance in your role, and then you just touched on it now with these relationship thing, which is, I think, sometimes a hidden part of getting on in your career, in life, and stuff. This networking, maybe being there for people, they're being there for you. How do you go about doing that in a large corporate, maybe also with, disparate teams, some people in an office, some people not? Like, what's your kind of take on how to go about doing that?
Yeah. So first, it needs to be intentional, and you need to block time out for it. So I spend about 3 hours. I do it on Fridays. People do whatever makes sense to them. But for me, it's 3 hours on Fridays. And it's not just people in my organization, but also honing in my network outside of the company that I'm in. And people often forget that part. But it's super, super, super important, not because you're necessarily looking to jump companies, but because that insight and expertise will help you either A, when you're hiring, or B, when you need a partnership or an insight that you can't get within your collective. So I think that's super, super important. And then the other, people tend to focus upwards and downwards. They basically never focus on peers, influencers that aren't in the chain of command but have influence, and that is a huge mistake.
Yeah. I agree with you. I love that. 3 hours. That is, I mean, brilliant. And so of those 3 hours, so you were like, essentially, just to give people, maybe break it down, because 3 hours is like, for someone that's not doing this, is quite a big thing. So maybe just to chunk it down, you can like jump on LinkedIn, and you can start to connect with people maybe in your firm, maybe people who have left your firm, customers, peers. Is that the kind of activity that you can?
Yeah. And I do it in 3 chunks. So chunk 1 is people that I don't know very well in my organization. So I'll meet maybe 2 people that I've heard really good things about, and or I've heard they're working on some cool things that I should be, at least aware of. So that's 1 hour of it. The next hour, I am chunking it down to people who could do really well on my team because I've heard they're awesome and I don't really know them. And so it's like referrals via, colleagues or friends or past bosses. And then there's the cold reach out that you look like you got a really good experience set. Let me just play around and let's just talk. And it's amazing how many people on my team came from just a cold reach out that I'm like, oh, you posted something kind of cool, like, or, oh, that job seems awesome, or whatever. And I'll reach out 8 times out of 10. That's not the only time I talk to them. I keep talking to them after that.
Yeah. 100%. And to validate all of what you've just said. So running a search firm, there's 2 things. People are like, how do I get my first leadership role, or how do I get a next leadership role? Yeah. And you tend to find when you get to that level is that the roles are not advertised. We don't advertise. Most of our peers don't advertise. Yeah. And so you need to be visible. Yes. So you need to be networking like crazy. Yes. A lot of people I speak to, I mean, like, how did you get that role? And it's like, oh, my old boss or someone I used to work with or a customer, they called me up, and, it de-risks the whole thing for everyone. Totally. And again, you only find out about it when someone announces they've got the job. Totally. But and then you need to get to know search firms. So you want to be found or referred, etc. So investing that time pays dividend, not in a a weird way. I think networking is not about selling. So if you do it like you're doing it right at the beginning throughout your whole career, it starts to pay dividends with these opportunities that present themselves. So
totally. And the other advice I always give people is, don't only network when you need something. Like if you're just looking for a job and you're just networking because of that, because you need something, it never works. Like you have to develop the relationship ahead of time.
Yeah. And also the thing I really like about your approach is that you're not waiting. You hear all the time, I'm waiting for the company to give me training, I'm waiting for the promotion, or you're taking ownership, like being the CEO of your career and making things happen. Yes. If you don't do it, no one else is going to do it for you.
No, they're not.
I mean, who's going to do it for you? So, I really like that. It's a really, really great approach. I want